They would have a team of people behind locked doors at British Airways who would be ringing up our passengers, pretending to be from Virgin Atlantic, telling our passengers that the Virgin flight was delayed, and then switching them on to British Airways.
You've said before the easiest way to become a millionaire is to start as a billionaire and buy an airline. What do your partners say to you when you come to them with the idea to start your own airline, and when they realized you were actually serious?
Well, Simon Draper, who ran the record label with me, basically said that that if I went into the airline business, our friendship would have to end, and that we could no longer work together. Because he just thought he thought he should ring up and get the white coats to come and take me away and have me locked up, because what on earth is somebody who's in the entertainment business doing, wanting to start an airline? I'd had a bad experience. I'd been trying to get to see my lovely lady in the Virgin Islands, and we'd been bumped by American Airlines. I was in Puerto Rico, and it was 6 o'clock one evening, and I was determined to get to see her. I was about 28 years old. I went to the back of the airport and I borrowed a blackboard. I hired a plane. I wrote as a joke, Virgin Airlines one way, $39 to the BVI, and I went around all the people who'd been bumped with me, and I filled up my first plane. And when we got to the Virgin Islands that night, it was the next day I rang up Boeing and said, "Do you have any second-hand 747s for sale?" I mean, the reason I think my partners were wrong was traveling on airlines in those days was abysmal. I mean, they would dump a bit of cold chicken on your lap. There was no entertainment. The cabin crew didn't smile because they were treated so badly. The planes were old and run down. And so, bring somebody in from the entertainment world and liven it up and make it a wonderful experience. And
yeah, but I'm sure they're rightly thinking, what do you know about an airline? You're a music guy.
Yeah, and the head of British Airways, came out with a sort of caustic comment. Too young to fly, too old to rock and roll. They're never going to succeed. And
funny enough, though, soon enough you had them pretty concerned. What made you realize somebody was messing with your airline and starting to create problems for you?
So we had about 3 or 4 planes after 2 or 3 years, and British Airways launched what became famously known as the British Airways Dirty Tricks campaign. And it was a kneecapping job to try to put Virgin Atlantic out of business completely. And we learned about what they were up to from people who actually worked for British Airways, who were really embarrassed to be working for a company that behaved in this way. So, for instance, they would have a team of people behind locked doors at British Airways who would be ringing up our passengers, pretending to be from Virgin Atlantic, telling our passengers that the Virgin flight was delayed, and then switching them on to British Airways. They had people intercepting our passengers at the airport and switching them on to British Airways. They had teams of people going through my rubbish bins, and if there was a journalist that I'd talked to, they would be going through the journalist rubbish bins. They had people. We had a gay nightclub in London, and they would go through the rubbish bins there to see if they could find any needles or any signs of drugs, and then report it to the newspaper. And then they would be trying to disparage our finances and so on in the press. So, but fortunately, they denied all this.
What was the point in which you realized you had to take them to court?
The amount of rumors they were managing to get the press to write about was becoming very dangerous and very damaging. If the press write about an airline and say that it's on the verge of bankruptcy or something, it can actually become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When they denied all this, we sued them for libel, and we ended up winning the largest libel damages in British history. It was Christmas time, so we distributed them to all our staff equally, and it became known as the British Airways Christmas bonus, and all our staff were very, very happy, and it was such a big, reward against British Airways that it really did shut them up, and from then on, yeah, we've had lots of competition over the last 35 years, but it's been, basically, relatively fair competition, not the sort of dirty tricks sort of competition.
Lord King, who was the infamous head of British Airways, what did your interaction with him entail when you guys ran into each other after your victory in court?
Yeah, he wasn't best pleased, and actually he ended up stepping down from British Airways.
Because of your victory, basically.
Because of our victory. And but I think what it illustrates is your reputation is all you have in life, and you just got to be very careful not to destroy that reputation, and by doing something that is verging on illegal. I mean, arguably was illegal.
You end up selling your music business for $1 billion in effort to fight off British Airways during their attack, while for a lot of money, very painful for you, not something you wanted to do. What's the likelihood, looking back, that you could have fought off British Airways without having sold the business, you think?
It's a good question, and I suspect we may have just got away with it, but it was a hell of a risk. And if we'd failed to get away with it, we could have brought both companies, our record company and our airline, crashing down. It gave us the financial muscle to not only combat British Airways, but also to move Virgin into a whole massive new areas, and Virgin became a sort of way of life brand and became very exciting as a result of us having the resources to do it.